Hello, everyone, and welcome to the IFLA Open Science Policies and the Role of Libraries webinar, presenting initiatives from China and Indonesia. This webinar is hosted by the IFLA Open Science and Scholarship Advisory Committee. Before we begin our webinar today, I would like to inform you that this event is being recorded and that will include the chat. You will be able to find the recording on our webpage after this meeting. Your microphones have been muted for this event, but we really welcome your comments and your questions. We encourage you to please use the chat or the Q&A box. For further information, you can see some links below. With that, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Fiona Bradley. I'm the chair of the IFLA Open Science and Scholarship Advisory Committee and also Director of Research and Infrastructure at UNSW Sydney Library in Australia. And I'll be chairing our webinar today. Thank you very much all for joining us. So our agenda is I will first begin by giving you a very brief overview of IFLA's recent work on open science and scholarship. We will then hear from our two presenters, and then we will have some time for questions and answers from the audience. So to begin, I'd like to give some of you an update that may not know yet about our Open Science and Scholarship Advisory, and also give an update for those who know more about our work. So this is IFLA's newest advisory committee. It was established in 2024. However, it builds on the work of many working parties and activities within IFLA over the past decade or more. During the committee's first term, we have been focused on defining IFLA's contribution to these issues, raising awareness amongst the Federation, so with all of the units and sections of IFLA, and also collaborating with other units and external partners on a range of activities. Some of the topics that we're interested in and that you might also hear something about today include open science, copyright reform, rights retention, equity, diversity, and trust. Our work is guided by the IFLA strategy and the IFLA statements on open access over the years, as well as the international policy environment that very much shapes IFLA's work and the themes that you'll hear more about today. Some of the work that we've done in our first year as an advisory committee includes responding to consultations from the International Science Council and UNESCO. We're also actively participating in the International Open Science Monitoring Initiative, and we are in contact with many units, regional divisions, and external partners to discuss how IFLA can contribute to this very, very active topic. Last year, we held several successful events at the IFLA Summit in Brisbane, and we're looking forward to more activities this year, including this webinar, which is the first webinar that this advisory committee has hosted. We're also working on a new version of the open access vocabulary. If you haven't seen it yet, I warmly encourage you to check it out. It's fantastic, and we are also going to be adding more terms and translations in the next version. So with that as the introduction to IFLA's work on open science, I'm very happy to present our first speaker today, Dr. Jinsha Huang, who is the Director of the Open Science Research Centre at the National Science Library of the Chinese Academy of Sciences and a professor at the School of Economics and Management of the University of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Professor Huang has many distinguished achievements in this field, and I won't read all of them, but what I will share is that what is very relevant for our discussion today is that she has been very actively involved in open science research and practice projects for CAS, China, and UNESCO since 2020. And for example, under her leadership, her team has established GoOA, a global high-quality open access paper integration platform, and many other very interesting initiatives in this field. So each of our presenters today, we have two presenters, will speak for around 15 to 20 minutes. Professor Huang, the floor is yours.
open my microphone. Thank you for honor. I'm Jingxia Huang, and I will share my screen. It is visible for everyone?
Yes, working.
It's okay? Okay. Everyone, it's my great honor to introduce the research and the practice of open science in Chinese library. I'm Jingxia Huang from National Science Library of Chinese Academy of Sciences. Firstly, I give a brief introduction of National Science of CAS. NSLC was founded in 1950, and it is a huge research library service system of CAS, including a central library in Beijing and two branch library in Chengdu and Wuhan. And there are about 120 institutional library in Chinese Academy of Sciences. NSLC is also part of the Chinese National Science and Technology Library System, named as National Library of Sciences of China. NSLC has more than 300 staff, and every year NSLC subscribed more than 170 databases for the researchers in CAS. In my presentation, I will introduce three contents. The first one is I will introduce the Open Science Initiative and actions in China. The second, I will introduce the open science research and practice in our library. And at the last section, I will introduce I will share our research and practice on the open science policies and the open science in fostering open science in China, and introduce our suggestion to Chinese government on open science. Actually, since 2003, China has actually promoted open access, open science, including Open Policy Initiative, Institute Repository, and Knowledge Repository, Open Publication, Preprint, Open Data and Infrastructure, Open Science Training, and more. In 2021, open science was written into the law of the People's Republic of China on progressing of science and technology. We all know that in 2021, UNESCO launched the recommendation on open science. Yes. The law of the People's Republic of China on progress of science and technology clearly proposed to promote the development of open science in China. And last November, Chinese leader delivered an important speech announcing China's 8 actions to support global development. The fifth item states that China will jointly launch Open Science International Cooperation Initiative with Brazil, South Africa, and the African Union, aiming to promote more global scientific and technology innovation achievement to benefit the global South. We think that this important speech will bring new opportunities for the development of open science worldwide and promote another wave of actions in open science in China. We do a study on the open science practice in China. We collect more than 149 open science practice from the Chinese scientific community. We found that China has implemented open science practices across all 7 action areas in the UNESCO Open Science Recommendation. Although there are some shortage or some gap, but the result shows that Chinese action in all 7 action areas in United Open Science Recommendation. In China government support some research projects on open science tradition and impacts, including Minister of Science and Technology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, National Science Foundation of China, China's Association of Science and Technology. Based on the research outcomes from this project, we found that we think that open science movement is formed by the convergence of 3 movements: open access, open data, and global open science governance. We found that open access becomes the mechanism for sharing the knowledge generated throughout all research life cycle. And the secondary innovation for every country based on open data infrastructure has become a future trend at the national level. The third outcome is a global open and inclusive pattern of diverse governance is taking shape. Open science policy are governance tools. In the processing of open science actions, firstly, we hope to construct a scheme of the open science. So firstly, we had a study on the dimension of open and inclusive science. We think that in the open science, the openness and the inclusiveness are very important because the open science paradigm, global science will become the future trend for all the scientific communicators to contribute to. So, basing on the 2 dimensions on inclusiveness and openness, we think that we should pay more attention to the openness science readiness. And we select 3 factors as mentioned in our research in the 3 stages of open science movement, including open access, open data, and open policy. Based on these 3 stages of open science, we proposed the Open Science Readiness Index to measure the dynamic status and progressing of open science in different countries or regions worldwide. From the results in 2023, we found that European Union had the highest OSII index. The following are United States, China, UK, Germany, Japan, STLS, and India and Russia. To further advance the readiness of open science in China, we need to increase the share and the volume of open access and internationally cooperation academic outputs. We need to improve the quality, information integrity, and the reliability of research outcomes with shared data. And we need to engage in global open science governance to enhance the competitiveness of national open science policy. In the open access movement, actually in 2014, NSLC and CAS released the policy statement on open science. Since 2019, China has taken the leader in global OA paper publications, contributing about 19% of the total according to SCI data. And last year, the Chinese Open Science Network proposal and initiative on new OA journal entitled Open Science, which is quoted by Chinese scientific community to UNESCO. In the open data and the open infrastructure development in China, China placed significant emphasis on the submission, management, and open sharing of scientific data. China is the world's second largest contribution to scientific data release, and China has established more than 20 scientific data centers. And the SDG Big Data Platform and the Global Open Science Cloud Building excellent open data environment in China, and it is also served for the researchers all over the world. And the Chinese large-scale scientific facilities embrace global cooperation, such as China's SkyEye, Beijing Huairou National Cooperation Science Center, and JUN and other things. Yeah. And in the past 3 years, we hosted many open science conference in China, such as Zhongguancun Forum and the Belt and Road Conference on Science and Technology Exchange, and the UNSTI Forum side event, and the China OI Week. In the aspect of open science governance, in 2023, a public academic resources platform named as PubScholar was launched in our library, providing services such as search and discovery of public academic resources and other data sharing. Also in the last year, we proposed an initiative to UNESCO to help the Science Decade. Last Friday, Science Decade Secretariat sent an email to us, which said that we are writing to confirm the endorsement of ISSSD program toward Open Science Infrastructure Sharing Network, Knowledge and Data Sharing Platform from China, Open for Science Chain. Yes, we will construct Chinese Open Science Center based on this initiative. For the open science actions in our library, NSLC is one of the earlier adopters of the open access movement in China and contributes to play a leading role in the promoting of open science in China. Since 2012, NSLC has been hosting the China OA Week, which is held successful for more than 10 years. From 2018, it is focused turns from OA to open access, to open science. And we also signed an institutional expression of interest on behalf of CAS to join Scope 3. And until now, NSLC signed, I think, more than 5 OHTA in China. And our library is the first library to sign this OTA in China. Since 2009, NSLC initiated the development of IR, Institutional Repository in China. And we developed the CAS Institute Repository grade. At the same time, we pay more attention on monitoring of global open publishing. We establish a platform named as GoOA to integrate global high-quality open access papers. And every year we launch the open access high-quality journal white list. To monitor the OA publishing market, especially on APC, we develop a tool named as APC Check to check the APC reasonableness. Yes. And we also launched the Global OA Journal and APC Monitor Report annually. We also construct the Chinese CAS preprint platforms in 2016. NSLC actively attended in the Open Science Governance in 2014. Our library supported CAS, and NSLC issued OA policy statement encouraging researchers to take their outputs open accessible. As librarians, we have the we develop a training course for the researchers in Chinese Academy of Sciences. We established open science training thesaurus. And based on these thesaurus, we figure out a protocol on open science for early career researchers in China, which include 5 phases in the research workflow. And in 2021, we get an important from UNESCO Beijing office, a report named as Open Science and Digital Inclusion in China was written out and shared with UNESCO. Our library hosted the Open Science Roundtable in the Belt and Road Conference on Science and Technology Exchange, and we invite the speakers from South Africa, United UK, and Belgium, Botswana, and Iceland. And we also have a deeper discussion with colleagues in CERN. After the launch of UNESCO Open Science Outlook, we organized more than 60 Chinese scholars to have a discussion on this outlook. And we figure out a report named as Outlook on Outlook and sent this report to UNESCO. Last year and this year, we hosted the Zhongguancun Forum and hosted the Open Science Forum in this forum. For the Open Science movement, we think that there are still so many challenges. In China, we cannot get the consensus among different stakeholders on the value of open science. And on a global scales, we see that the publishing model transfer to open access model. But how about the quality of the OA publishing, and how about the IPC? So we think that the essence of the challenges lies in the global issues surrounding knowledge flow and and in the knowledge flow maybe include the knowledge quality issue, intact IP conflict, data sharing security, difficulty in data, and cost and funding challenges, and so on. In the open access, we think that we need to have a consensus on a global local strategy for open access to solve the challenges on the geographical separation between the knowledge source and the knowledge hub, and the quality control of the OA publishing, and the financial support, and make the financial affordable for all over the world, especially for the global south. And for the data and infrastructure, we think that the science data strategy plan is a good way for us to promote the open data and infrastructure. We figure out report on fostering open science infrastructure cooperation. We such as a co-building a global network on infrastructure and sharing infrastructure to promote sustainable development. And in Xiangsan Science Conference, we launched an initiative on implementing open science. We gave out some suggestions on integrated open and inclusive principles at every stage of research, and foster sharing scientific ecosystems through openness and other things. So based on this research and practice, we suggest for the role of library in open science paradigm, library should work with research communities and support institutes and government to establish open science infrastructure. And we should promote a global network for sharing scientific and technology information. At the same time, libraries should participate actively in the development of open science policies in the institutional and in the national level. That's all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Huang. That was a very good summary of some of the issues that libraries should be thinking about. And it was wonderful to hear how comprehensive the approach is in China to all different parts of open science, including collaboration and policies, infrastructure, and thinking about the costs of research. Thank you very much. So we will have time for questions at the end. So please, if you already have a question for Professor Huang, please put your question in the chat or in the Q&A. And while you're thinking about your questions for Professor Huang, we will now invite our next speaker, who is Madia Rennie, who is a research data librarian at the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, at Republic of Indonesia. Her specific interests include how research data management can support open science within the research and innovation ecosystem. As an open science advocate, she actively participates in various organisations, and I'm very proud to say she's one of our most active members of the IFLA Open Science and Scholarship Advisory Committee, as well as the work she does with other groups, including Re3 Data, Data Sites, and many others. Additionally, her achievements include that she was one of Indonesia's member representatives on the UNESCO Recommendation on Open Science and has been awarded a number of grants and participated in international projects. She's currently pursuing a PhD at University College London. Rennie, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. I will try to share the screen. So I hope you can see it right now, Fiona. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone. Good day for all of you. My name is Madiarini Sulaiman and you can call me Reni. First of all, thank you Fiona for the introduction and thank you Prof. Jinsha for sharing the initiative from China because we learned a lot from your sharing. And today I'm going to talk about the initiatives from Indonesia, which is very related to my day-to-day work and study. So just want to share a little bit about myself. I consider myself having three roles and labeled myself as a data champion. Why? First, because I work as a librarian in Indonesian research performing organization called BRIN Indonesia, and we manage data repository and of course any research output, including research data. Second, I also volunteer as an advocate, having involved with communities globally, including DataSite, Retri Data, IFLA, WDS, RDA, and many others. And thirdly, I'm currently a PhD student in Information Studies at UCL. Now it's my third year, focusing on RDM and open science. Especially in their collaboration, me seeing the data librarians collaborate interprofessionally like how healthcare professionals do between doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and others to achieve one goal, that is the patient's health. Whereas in open science, our primary objective is to ensure that research is reproducible and to enhance the fairness of research practices. Consequently, there are numerous actors involved, with librarians holding an especially important position as long-term advocates for the openness of knowledge. So this is the reason why I'm undertaking this study for my doctoral thesis. And at the same time, during my exploration to learn more about data librarians and the progress of RDM and open science globally, I observe a notable gap of discrepancies between various stakeholders. Indeed, different communities, institutions, disciplines, regions, and countries create their own policies, commonly referred to as digital sovereignty. However, the question still remains, such as how do these policies vary, or how might they be aligned between the global north and global south? In the EU, we have GDPR, whereas other regions have less strict regulations. Or other question like are data sharing mandates reinforcing power imbalances, potentially leading to risk of data extraction, misuse, or scientific dependency on infrastructure? But questions also arise from a positive perspective, such as how can open access policies empower us, researchers from the global south? Uh, uh, for example, can the removal of paywalls and the encouragement of open licensing lead to a more equitable landscape for knowledge production and sharing? Or how does open science help in addressing global challenges? Can unrestricted data sharing and collaboration across regions lead to significant advancement in health, climate change, and technology? Plenty of questions to come up. That is why I invite you to engage in a deeper reflection on power dynamics in digital knowledge sharing, because this is essential to building a healthier open science and research ecosystem. And that is why I chose this photo, because it features a globe in front of London School of Economics, symbolizing a world turned upside down, where the southern hemisphere now is in the north. Then how do we define the terms global north and south when looking at this specific globe? And if we're talking about policies, does the implementation depend on the due diligence? Due diligence here means a thorough investigation or research you do before making a significant decision. This could involve reviewing the number of policies before initiating a research project, or in our scenario, as a simple case, examining open access policies before submitting a manuscript to a journal. And according to roadmap, there is a big gap in OA open access policies across different continental regions. Even when discussing the availability of data statements alongside these policies, the actual implementation falls short of our expectation because most of them said that the data is available on request. Well, let's just return to the notion of open science. In my previous slide, I presented the dilemmas that the current global policy and its implementation falls significantly short of our expectation. Although we certainly acknowledge the many areas of progress that we really appreciate. And open science serves as an umbrella term representing various concepts, much like the figure that you can see on the slide. In Bahasa Indonesia, the term open science is usually called a science terbuka. Just as the term open suggests, open science does not imply a complete openness. Rather, it follows the fair and care principles, which respect the integrity of research procedures. It can be anything that motivates us to ensure knowledge is accessible to everyone. One that we're familiar with is scientific publication, but there are many more, including open research data, open infrastructure, and even the dialogue and engagement of societal actors. So how's the case in Indonesia? In Indonesia, the research ecosystem is influenced by two key institutions, the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, and my institution, the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN Indonesia. BRIN is particularly distinctive as we serve multiple roles. We are funder, a research performing organization, and a facilitator of research resources covering both human resources and infrastructure. We have a total of active 5 research centers across 12 research organizations. So it can be similar to UKRI or the Chinese Academy of Science. So it's from the scope of aeronautic and space areas to the governance, economy, and community welfare. And you can see that this is the chronology of the open access or open scientific movement in Indonesia, similar to what the other nations are going through. A lot has been happening, and we're clearly making progress with a lot of initiatives and efforts from both the top-down and bottom-up. Article production in Indonesia increased dramatically in 2012 due to a publishing requirement, for example, which was later accompanied by supportive infrastructure and regulations. We met an effort to implement data deposit into 2017, and then in 2019 it was officially mandated at the national level to deposit and preserve data and research output as well. Now BRIN Indonesia as an open platform continuously support its development. So this policy serves as the guiding principle for all regulation related to science and technology, including its support for open science initiatives in Indonesia. Point 5 outlines a mandate requiring the deposit of primary research data and research output. In detail, Article 40 specifies that it is essential for funders, researchers, and research performing organizations in Indonesia to deposit the data and research output as required. And in addition to our policies, we support the research data repositories known as BRIN Data First, the only multidisciplinary data repository in Indonesia, which is accessible for public use. And we're part of the Data First community based at Harvard University, and our data repository is used not only by BRIN researchers, but also by various other stakeholders. And we have both open and closed data sets, so the metadata remains accessible. We also offer open infrastructure accessible to the public through ELSA, which stands for e-scientific services. We open over 500 labs and 50 machines, incorporating additional research and non-research services. In addition to RIN Dataverse serving as our data repository, we also have preprint server known as a RIN archive. And on top of that, we offer high performance computing resources available to the public known as Mahamiru. And in line with open science initiatives, there is also the implementation of open government, known as One Data Indonesia, which runs on a similar timeline with open science. According to a study last year, Indonesia ranked 61st in the Global Open Data Index, facing challenges such as overlapping initiatives, the need for harmonious policies, and increased government support, especially in capacity building. Despite the policies and open facilities presented in the previous slide, it appears that the Indonesian government and our open science communities still have more to accomplish. Meanwhile, the main goal of open science is to ensure that research is fair. The optimal process known as the FAIR workflow was initiated by DataSet and is still a work in progress. It relies on persistent identifiers to improve interoperability, ensuring that the research is well documented end-to-end and from planning through grants to outputs and outcomes. Well, how about we integrate that workflow into the existing Indonesian ecosystem? It appears that numerous gaps require attention. Considering the current development strategies for PIDs, it is important to concentrate on specific layers, especially the research cycle. Also, ORCID and ROR-ID often serve as PIDs for Indonesian researchers and their affiliations. Raising awareness of these services among a broader audience is essential. Unfortunately, the implementation of the grant or research project has not yet been completed or implemented. This includes tasks such as pre-registration, data management, cloud software, and protocol integration to embed PIDs, for example, in our workflow. Thankfully, with the implementation of mandatory deposit regulation, we have infrastructures that enable us to deposit data sets using handles as PIDs. And we also provide a preprint platform known as RIN Archive. And we eventually, like what the majority of our research stakeholders do, we primarily use the open journal system for publications with DOI serving as PIDs. And we have not yet developed PIDs for instruments. This actually provides an overview of our ongoing efforts to achieve fairness, although we face challenges in establishing meaningful interoperability. But we do have SINTA, actually, the Science and Technology Index, which indexes all of our publications. So SINTA stands for Science and Technology Index. This dashboard provides national insights from all of Indonesia's index research outputs. This includes the authors, their institution, their research outputs, and many others. This is accomplished by assigning SINTA ID, much like ORCID ID, to our researchers, and categorizing our journals into six levels of SINTA accreditations to enhance our publication quality. Indonesia is in fact the largest contributor to ISSN output, producing 3,000 to 4,000 members annually. And on the right side, we can see the increasing number of our articles and journals each year as they work toward a higher level of accreditation to be SINTA 1. And on the left below, the PKP data indicates that around 28,000 Open Journal System or OJS instances are widely used by Indonesian journal managers, with a smaller portion also using OMP for monograph and OPS. And one interesting feature was highlighted in the report produced by DataSite, which compiled the Indonesian open access repositories indexed in ROR and DOR, and it shows hundreds, whereas I believe personally there should be approximately 1,000, as nearly every university in Indonesia has its own institutional repository managed by their own academic libraries using ePrints or DSpace or other open sources. Unfortunately, we currently lack specific data to identify them. Also, there are only 2 institutions in Indonesia that have a data repository, so BRIN Indonesia and Telkom University Library. Then what are the roles of our libraries in Indonesia? Before addressing that, I want to mention that my active participation in the community and attendance at numerous events has consistently led me to come across many dedicated librarians and libraries that are enthusiastic about supporting various open science initiatives, like how we can acknowledge and give credit to the hidden role in research, professionalizing data stewards, and the significance of trusted research infrastructure through national and global data centers, or even other efforts to make research fair, including the most recent one I attended, the Fly Information Future Summit, where we, as library information professionals, will face the future by highlighting trends from the IFLA Trend Report. Based on that, numerous initiatives have been done by the library community in Indonesia. One of the highlights I can share is from Brin Library, which has organized numerous activities to promote open science awareness in Indonesia. These activities include collaborative events, series of webinar, podcasts, and regular library services. Notable initiative is the integration of the manuscript submission workflow in the Open Journal system with a data repository using the Data First plugin. With this, I can say that the by increasing the capacity of librarian is undoubtedly a significant challenge, and collaborating with the stakeholders like the National Library of Indonesia and the community, local community, even international, is crucial in order to face these emerging roles. Especially given the increasing conversation surrounding open science and the evolution of technologies and practices, I highly suggest for you to read the IFLA Trend Report, because the report emphasizes trends and present facts indicating that knowledge practices are changing and that digital technology is distributed unevenly. Upgrading the skills of our library information professionals is necessary for facing the future, especially when it comes to practical skills, partnership skills, and personal developments. The reason is that resource types are becoming varied. They can now be found in many formats. So how can we effectively manage and track them, considering they are knowledge products after all, right? One aspect involves ensuring they are machine readable by assigning persistent identifiers to people, places, and things. Another initiative is to consolidate them into one package, ensuring thorough documentations. However, this remains a work in progress. The goal is toward interoperability, allowing us to observe the impacts indicated by the connections they show to us, like this PID graph. In general, having access is truly a privilege. Libraries and librarians in Indonesia play a significant role in open science initiatives. Thus, the Indonesian government has made numerous efforts to create a supportive ecosystem for open science to thrive. Although there's still much work to do, to be done, and what I know, it is a collective effort after all. So that's all that I want to share. Thank you so much for your attention. I will give the floor back to Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reni, for sharing your enthusiasm for research data and how to bring everything together that connects outputs and people, and why it's so important to do that. It was very interesting to hear also, if you think about some of the topics that both of you discussed, Reni and Professor Huang, in that you both talked about issues like infrastructure, skills, and different ways of communicating with researchers. I found it very interesting that you both talked about using new media, short videos, podcasts, different ways of reaching out to audiences. I think that's something that we should definitely learn more about from your experience and see how we can use these tools to reach people in different ways. So thank you very much, Reni. Now, we're going to turn to our question and answer. So we have received a very good question in our Q&A box that both of you talked about briefly in your presentation. And I know that you will both have more to say on this topic because Indonesia is very well known for being an excellent publisher of open journals. Rennie, you talked about ISSNs, and Professor Huang, you also talked about the new Open Science Journal and other initiatives. So can I start with you, Professor Huang, and then turn to you, Rennie? The question is about the role of diamond open access in your countries, which means no charge to read, no charge to publish. And what are some initiatives you could mention that are happening in your country at the moment?
Yes, thank you. It's a good question because I think it is OA model is the first issues we could figure out to promote open access because it tightly related to the from investment stakeholders. So in China, I think the diamond open access model is the main OA models. Yeah, especially you know that there are more than 5,000 scientific journals in China, and this journals has no APC and supported by the government. So from the publishing areas, it seems that in China, the Diamond OA model is maybe the many OA models in publishing. But at the same time, you know, regarding to the data infrastructure and large scale facilities, you know, which the government supports all. So in these issues, we promote Diamond OA models in China, but Diamond OA model isn't the real OA. It isn't the full OA model. We need, yes, the full OA model can attract every stakeholders to participated in. But now we know to some general, to some place, to some data systems that could not get enough investment from the government. So they will ask the other additional investment or funders from other stakeholders like companies or some community, or some public, so how to promote the full open access is more important than the Diamond OA. Yes, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, so if I add from the Indonesian perspective, Indonesian case, my presentation has shown you. So in 2012, the government mandated our researchers, students as well to publish their scientific output. So it encourage and boosts the productions of journals and also because the multilingualism, so it's easier to use Bahasa Indonesia to deliver our scientific output instead of using English, and we need to use like a professional translations because of that. And the support of open sources from the PKP, that's why we use the open journal system the most. Like I showed you before from Indonesian stats, the data indicates that 28,000 OGS has been managed by Indonesian journal manager. And not only that, we also use the open monograph system by PKP. And the workflow is very open. We don't charge anything to our authors, and also usually from the managers, the reviewers, it is based on communities. So we have like a very good grassroots community movement initiatives done by our stakeholders, not only by government, but because Indonesia is very broad, each of the areas, regions, they have like a representative of the grassroots communities. It is called RGA, Relawan Jurnal Indonesia. In English, translate as Indonesian Journal Volunteers. So it is a very good movement done by our communities. And they usually teach our like new generations in managing the journals and how to have communities to be a reviewer in their own disciplines. So that I think that's all related about diamond open access terms, but actually we don't, yeah, I don't know if it's already done in terms of diamond initiatives, but yeah, actually it's already started since 2012 without any charging to our stakeholders to access, read, or just or to publish. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we have time for maybe one or two questions at most, but I would like to ask you both a question now. So you both talked about the importance of collaboration, and a lot of the initiatives you talked about involved integration with different infrastructure, sharing research and topics like that. I would like to ask you what advice you would give to people coming from other countries on the webinar today who perhaps are struggling with getting the resources that are needed to sustain infrastructure, or that want to learn more about how to create more robust and sustainable platforms for sharing their national research. What would you suggest?
I was. Thank you. Yeah, it's very important for when we're talking about the international cooperation. We know that the aim and the scope of the open science is focused on the sharing and the cooperation and the interoperability. Yes, not only on the knowledge but also on the system. Yeah. So the new technology is very important to support to realize this aim of the open science. So when as for Anna said that today we have the participants from different countries, regions with different language. How to solve this problem that maybe we cannot communicate very well. So we know that there are 5 or 3 pillars in open to support open science. In the structure, in the sector, in the pillar of structure, there include the new technology such as AI. So maybe in the future, we scholar or practitioners or librarians in open science have more and tighter relationship or cooperation with the technology event or some technology models, to support us to cooperate tightly. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, from my perspective, because my research about collaboration as well, so like we need to be involved with the many stakeholders that we identify related to our work. For example, for me personally, I always focus on the fair and care principles because it always revolves around that. If we have like a very small steps, we can just start from the findable and accessible first, just focus on that. But later on, if we already have like a very good approach in that too, we can go to the next one, interoperable. But yeah, because of that, like I said before, it's a collective effort after all. So we need to engage with many more stakeholders. It can be bottom up, top down approach. So yeah, that's why we still need to collaborate together and engage with
Yeah.
many stakeholders. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I will. Yeah. Maybe we know the aim of open science movement, but we don't know the future of open science. But we must take actions to promote this procession. Maybe the future, what is the future of science, is based on what we are taking actions now. Yeah.
I think that's excellent advice to end our webinar on today. There is another question in the Q&A. We have come to the end of our session, but I think actually, Professor Huang, I think in some way you have answered the question. It's about whether you see a bright future for repositories. I think based on your presentation, yes. So I think it is a very optimistic situation at the moment. We can all collaborate in the future. So what I would like to do is just make a couple of comments before closing our webinar today. So just to remind everyone, we do have a website where we share information about advisory committee's work. We have a mailing list. Everyone is welcome to join the email list and to share discussions and topics there. Please stay tuned for an announcement about our next webinar, and we hope to see some of you at the next IFLA Congress in Kazakhstan. And then what I would like to do is just ask Professor Huang, are you happy to share your presentation slides with the audience afterwards? Yes, excellent. And Rennie, we have already shared a link to your
Yeah.
slides. Thank you. There was a question about certificates. You won't receive a formal certificate for attending the webinar today, but you will receive information from the Zoom system, including a link to the recording. So that brings us to the end of our webinar today. I would like to say a very special thanks to Professor Jingshuo Huang and also Betty Rennie Selaman for joining us and presenting their stories and summary of what's happening in China and Indonesia. I would also like to thank Wendy Wong from the Open Science and Scholarship Committee for helping me with the technology today. And thank you to all of you for joining us. We hope you found this useful, and we look forward to hearing your ideas and feedback in the future. Thank you, everyone.